Hi all, welcome to my channel. This video is about AWS Global Accelerator. How can we use Global Accelerator to increase the access speed of your applications hosted on AWS? Even if your application is hosted on North Virginia region and your users are accessing it from Tokyo, Global Accelerator can keep the latency under check. We'll try to understand how Global Accelerator is achieving that. And we will end this video with a speed test tool or simulation tool using which we can find out what is the difference in elapsed time when I'm sending a message from my laptop to any of the AWS regions by using Global Accelerator and without using Global Accelerator. What is the difference in speed or what is the difference in elapsed time? We'll be able to find out. That will be very interesting. Okay, let's start by understanding what is Global Accelerator. So let's understand more about Global Accelerator. Assume that there is no Global Accelerator and you have an application which is running in North Virginia region of AWS and your users are sitting in Tokyo and they are trying to access your application. Their traffic will actually go through the public internet, which will make several hops through multiple networks, and finally when it reaches the destination they would have already spent a large number of milliseconds, or basically the latency will be very high and the customers are not going to be happy. So how can we reduce this latency? We can reduce this latency by directing this traffic through the internal network of AWS. AWS has a global internal network which is of very high speed. It is like a super highway. If you compare this public internet to a busy road like this, you can say that the global network of AWS is something like this. So basically what we need is to redirect the traffic from the public internet, which is something like the country roads, which are narrow and crowded. You have to redirect that traffic to a super highway like this. So how do we do that? We can do that by using the service called Global Accelerator. Before we get into the Global Accelerator, let us talk a little bit more about the global network of AWS. We all know that AWS has around 33 regions based in major economic hubs of the world. For example, in US we have 6, in Canada we have 2, in India we have 2, and these 33 regions consist of 105 availability zones, and each availability zone has a cluster of data centers. But now in your city, if there is no availability zone, for example, if you take the case of Bangalore, there is no availability zone in Bangalore. So people who are trying to access the content hosted in AWS, such as Amazon Prime Videos or Netflix or Disney Hotstar or any such content, video content or gaming content, etc. If you are trying to access from a city which doesn't have an availability zone, you may face latencies. To avoid that, AWS has set up its own content delivery network through its edge data centers. Edge data centers are smaller data centers which are established in around 600 plus locations across the globe. If you want to see the locations of edge data centers, you can click on this link. And you can see there are 33 launched regions, 105 availability zones and 600 plus CloudFront POPs. And if you come here and click on Asia Pacific, it will give you the edge locations in this area. Auckland in New Zealand, Bangalore, India, Bangkok, Thailand. You can see Chennai, India, Kolkata, India. A lot of cities where you may not necessarily have availability zones. If you go back, what we saw is that AWS Global Network has 33 regions, 105 availability zones, and apart from all these, it also has some 600 plus edge points of presence through which it can deliver content to the consumers as well as it can intake traffic from the consumers. And that is what we are going to use in Global Accelerator, wherein if you are sitting in Bangalore and if you are trying to access an application which is in North Virginia, if you are going through your normal public internet, this may take maybe 800 milliseconds. I'm just giving some number. But instead of sending the traffic through the public internet, what Global Accelerator does is it directs that traffic to the nearest edge data center. And once it reaches that edge data center, it enters the information superhighway of AWS's global network. And after that point, it passes through the internal network of AWS, which actually reduces your latency by around 50%. We have a simulation tool. We will try that out and see how much improvement we can actually get. So basically, your Global Accelerator is an edge location based service. It is based on the edge location. You can configure the Global Accelerator in front of your application. Say you have your application here. In front of that, configure the Global Accelerator Accelerator. In that case, what will happen is Global Accelerator will give you a couple of static IP addresses. So you will configure your DNS of your application in such a fashion that the DNS name will resolve to these static IP addresses, which will direct your traffic to the nearest edge location where your Global Accelerator resides. And this Global Accelerator is configured in such a fashion that the backend endpoint, right? It has its own endpoints. These endpoints are actually pointing to your application. Static IP address will direct your traffic to the nearby edge location, and from that edge location up to the application, the traffic will be directed through the superhighway of AWS network, as you can see here. So instead of that traffic going through the external network, like from local ISP going to another network and then to another network and then to another network, then another network, and finally reaching AWS North Virginia, right now the traffic will be directed to Global Accelerator in the nearest edge data center. From there onwards, it enters the superhighway. It is something like you take a particular exit and then enter the freeway or interstate highway, right? Rather than going through the country roads like this. This is like going through the country roads. So now let us get into more details on how this is actually made possible. As I mentioned already, the Global Accelerator provides static IP addresses, 2 IP addresses it will provide, that acts as an entry point to your application endpoints in multiple AWS regions. This we will see how this one works, multiple AWS regions. Let us proceed. Now assume that your same application you have deployed in Mumbai and you have deployed in London and you have also deployed it in North Virginia, which is US East 1. When someone from US is trying to access that application, it makes sense to get the data from North Virginia. And if somebody is trying to access it from Europe, it makes sense to get the data from London. And similarly in Mumbai and India as well. When you set up Global Accelerator, actually it provides 2 static IP addresses. And the same IP addresses are used in each of these regions, and if you are trying to access the application from US, that static IP address will resolve to the endpoint in North Virginia, and similarly if you are trying to access it from Europe, that static IP address finally it will point you to an endpoint in London, and similarly in India and Mumbai as well. And this feature is called multicast IP address, because the same set of IP address based on your location, actually it can point you to different regions. Global Accelerator directs your traffic to the closest or most appropriate region. If you are trying to access it from US, it will point you to North Virginia, and similarly if you are trying to access it from Bangalore, it may point you to Mumbai. And multicast IP address, I already mentioned this. Same IP address used in different regions but get routed to different endpoints. Now what are the endpoints? Endpoints can be elastic load balancer, or it can be EC2, or it can be elastic IP addresses pointing to any other application or service. And in each participating region, you can have an endpoint group. What is an endpoint group? The endpoint need not be one single endpoint. Here you can see that in this region, which is US East 1, there are 2 elastic load balancers, and you can split the traffic based on the weight assigned. Here it is 128 and here it is 0, which means all the traffic will go to the left side elastic load balancer, but you can make it 50-50 so that you can split the traffic. What we need to understand is you can have an endpoint group per every region, and in that endpoint group you can have multiple endpoints, and you can split the traffic between these endpoints using your endpoint weight. Similarly, you can also have multi-region deployment, wherein you can see here that this Global Accelerator, it is actually pointing to US West and US East 1. US West 2 and US East 1. You can split the traffic using what is called dial. You can make it 100%, 0% or 50%, 50%. You can decide on the combination. So this way also you can divide the traffic between the 2 regions. So Global Accelerator, basically it provides you with static IP addresses which can direct your traffic to the nearest edge location, and from that edge location your Global Accelerator is intelligent enough to direct your traffic to the most appropriate or more closest region. And you can also use Global Accelerator for splitting your traffic between 2 regions or between 2 endpoints in the same region. Now let us do a speed test to see if I send my traffic through the public internet versus if I send my traffic through the Global Accelerator. What is the difference in speed? So you can go to this particular site. I'll give you this link as part of my video description. So this is the Global Accelerator speed comparison. What you need to do is you just need to click on start. What will happen is region by region it will tell you how much time it has taken region to send that message directly over the internet and using Global Accelerator. So let me start. So it will take some time. Of course, it has to send the message and confirm how much time it is taking. Look at the time here. Just see 47% faster. This is for North Virginia and I am accessing it from Bangalore, India. Now just go to Oregon. So let us see how much improvement it gives. Here it's 60% faster. Okay, so here it is giving 60% faster. Now what about Ireland? That may be a little lesser. 51% faster. Now Frankfurt, that is giving 42% speed advantage. So like that you can complete all the 33 regions. Okay, so I am not going to wait for all the 33 regions. Here you can come here and you can select the next page of regions, and you can see here this one is 27. Tokyo is giving me only 27%. Here 30%. Okay, so in this video we saw what is Global Accelerator and how it works, and we also use this simulation tool to understand what is the real benefit we can get when we are using Global Accelerator to send our traffic. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back with more similar useful videos. You may consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you. Bye.